Getting started on the basics of creating content and uploading content into the system for self-authoring is easy. Start by clicking on Authoring and Assessments. Depending on your level of use with the system, you'll have existing products, or you can click Create Assessment to create something new. We're going to create something called Item and Content. Just for kicks, I'll copy that as the description. I'm going to do this in the English language, and I'm going to do it from scratch. It's going to bring up your item creation palette. On the left-hand side are all of the available options. I'll start by doing them one at a time. I'll click Create a Radio option. What is the weather like in Columbus, Ohio? And you could have some options: great, not so great, terrible. And if this did have any correctness, we could set up a correct value. It's not so great, give it a point value. Each of these have attributes that are important to scoring and display. I'm going to remove I'm going to remove the extra options that I created here by clicking on Delete Selected. As you can tell, I clicked Add Answer, and that has the reverse effect. I can change the format of these items by making it a drop-down, a checkbox, or a mobile responsive button option, and I can change them to being experimental, active, or retired. I've named my item to be Radio Option 1. Maybe that doesn't make a ton of sense. I could create it Weather Ohio. I also have export values, which is what is used in exporting of data. So if I want it to be 1, 2, 3, 4, A, B, C, D, G, NSG, and T, I can put whatever I want in these export values. I can also, if most of my tests are going to be taken by something other than a mouse, set up hotkeys on your keyboard. So great I could set it up to be the 1 key, not so great the 5 key, the space bar, etc. So when I click Finish, that item is created. That item actually has a score in it. If I click on the Edit overlay, the score is based on this point value and correctness. So that's the simplest way to think about it. Set a correct answer if there is one, like a rating scale. There might not be. A lot of items have correctness. And then on the right-hand side, I can set up how many columns do I want it to display in. I could display it in 4 columns, which doesn't make a ton of sense because I only have 3 responses. I could set it up as 2 columns. You get the idea. Most of the time, it's a linear type delivery. I can change the orientation, make it required, auto advance, set the width, height over here on the right. Perhaps I don't have to key all of my items in. I can use the import function to set that up. By clicking on import, I can look at the multi-section template by clicking on this, or a single section template by clicking on this. It'll show you what that template looks like and a little bit about it. I'm going to choose a file that I have set up on my desktop here, and I'm going to open it up to you just so you can see what that file looks like. Once you open it, you can see that it's pretty eye-readable. It shows the item type in words, the name of the item, the content within that item, whether it's required. If there are multiple answer options, they follow this 4-set value: answer, point value, correct, and export value, which we just showed on the last item created by hand. So that's kind of what the format's going to look like, and I'll go ahead and import this. So since this is already set up, I just click Select File, choose that item to upload. It's a CSV file, and then I click the Validate option, and it gives you a WYSIWYG, or what you see is what you get, display of those items converted from CSV directly into questions. If I hit Add, it creates those questions. There's section 1 that I named section 1, which is a rating scale. You can go in and edit this if you want and change the default point values or the export values that were created. And then I can look at section 2. I created a radio button option earlier. Here I asked what's the capital of Ethiopia, and I made it a button option, which is just a little bit easier to take on a mobile responsive machine. Within that, there's a little extra formatting. I can change the button backgrounds, foregrounds, selected, etc. So check out all the items and see the formatting options that you have over on the right hand side. So that's a little bit about item and content creation. You can create videos, audio, you can group items together if need be, but really it's just a matter of looking on the left hand side, selecting the button that you want. This is an image choice, for example, filling in that content, hitting finish, and your test is ready to go. In this case, if I click on the eyeball from creating these items, it'll show me what that looks like in real time. This was the first one that I created, and then it breaks it down question by question. Since it may make sense, you say I don't want my items formatted that way in display, you can edit those within the section settings. So I'll click on section 1 that has quite a few sections, or I'm sorry, quite a few items in there, and I could say, you know what, I don't want it to set page breaks after every question. I want to manually page break that. I can set up item filtering, which is another video altogether. But now, if I go in and look at section 1 to have no page breaks, we'll see just a little bit different format of that content. So as it's delivered, I have one there, but whereas before we saw one question per page, we now see them all on a single page. I can do that for each section, or I can have different display options for page numbering. So I click on item configuration, click manually add page breaks, and then you can actually see it in this item type. I don't want that. Let's delete that one. I don't want that one. So continuously, you can get the layout that you want. You could have page break every 3 questions if you wanted to. So the items are broken down by creating on the left-hand side, editing in the center, using the right-hand side palette for configuration, and then there are section settings where you can further edit how those items will display.